What you need is accomplished. It is already done. It is already done. The battle is won. What you need is accomplished. It is already done. It is already done. The battle is won. What you need is accomplished. It is already done. It is already done. The battle is won. What you need is accomplished. It is already done.
If I need healing,
Healing for my body, saving for my soul, refuge for my spirit.
He has made me
He
whole.
has made me whole. Healing for my body, saving for my soul, refuge for my spirit.
He has made me
He
whole.
has made me whole. It's already done. The battle is won. What you need is accomplished. It is already done. It is already done. The battle is won. What you need is accomplished. It is already done.
If it's already done, don't play and don't be cute about it, but give God the best praise you can give him. No, the best praise, the best praise. If it's already done, the best praise. Hey, listen, Jesus accomplishes stuff in the spirit, which means we can't look with our natural eyes to see whether it's been done. That's right. But once we tap into the spirit, we see that he was wounded, he was bruised. The chastisement of his peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. Yeah. We are healed. It is done. Touch your neighbor, say, it's done. I'm healed. I'm healed. I'm better. I'm stronger.
If I need healing,
Healing for my body, saving for my soul, refuge for my spirit.
He's already made me
He
whole.
has made me whole.
Healing,
Healing for my body,
saving,
saving for my soul,
sanctuary.
refuge for my spirit.
He's already made me
He
whole.
has made me whole.
Say healing,
Healing for my body,
saving,
saving for my soul,
rescue.
refuge for my
He
spirit.
has healing,
Healing for my body,
saving,
saving for my soul,
sanctuary.
refuge for my spirit.
He promised to make me whole.
Made me whole. Already done. The battle is won. What you need is accomplished. What you need is accomplished. What you need is accomplished. It is already done. He's already done it. Done did it for me. Done it for me. He's already done it. Done did it for me. Done it for me. He's already done it. Done did it for me. Done it for me. He's already done it. Done did it for me. Done it for me. He's already done it. Done did it for me. Done it for me. He's already done it. Done it for me. Already done it.
Whatever I need, whatever I need, whatever I need.
He's already done it.
He'll deliver. It's yours.
He's already done it. Done it for me.
Hello and welcome again to day 3 of the Leadme conference. I have been so excited. I'm sure you have been excited and blessed this week thank you so much. I just want to thank you guys actually for taking time out to join us and making this conference a success. I mean, we're day 3 although, but I know we got 2 days more, and I believe that the rest of these few days is going to be a great blessing to you. So stay tuned with us. Today we got great worship and great word from our own pastor. I don't want you to miss this, okay? So please stay tuned. But before we go into worship, just please share this broadcast with people. I want this to go as far. I want this broadcast to bless lives, because I know there are people out there that need to hear word today. So please do this for me right now. Yes, if you can. Yeah, right. So we're going to go into worship, and I'll be right back with more. God bless you, and stay tuned.
Never
Nyamikesi Kalabasinde de Boshati Kadabanarbosi Yanda Imando Shate Kabandarabosi Te Yande de Bebe. Unto him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that you expect or think. Kadibo Shaha, may he visit you now in your time of need. Madabadabadabasiyanda. Se wuchrinwa weni rinwa sida. Oh nyami nyami kesi. Asi orinya myoda orinya woda orinya myo orinya usuda unam ochemwa oni wunenam unam osumwa okawo wase wobose kaidadosha orinya chemwa oni minenam minam osumwa okami wo wasemi bose onge orinya myo orinya mida. Free Samira Wapaba Enida Sunina Rasa Yehowa Obetre Senkwaji Sumibi Woho Mirawa Haba Enti se wo fana sem se wo na sem no mwa se obra ni mwa yeti na weni da swasa obeye eradibeye manasi Una sem no moa se obrani moa yeti na weni da swasa obeye iradibeye manasi uye free se oyo kimafo Oyo kamafo mami ni wo halalala bosiada Jesus Oyo dimafo mami
If you believe that there can be no son without a father, that means you believe that only one father can create a son. And do you believe that it was the same father that created the son that created the son? Or was it a different father that created that son, created this son? You see, I'm talking about two creations here, the sun and the sun. Both creations lies in the heart of the world, the solar system. Both lies in the heart of the Christian, Muslim, and all other religious isms. One is more than 100 billion stars in the Milky Way. One is actually the way when you cannot find your way in the Milky Way. The Son of Man and the Son for man. Earth makes a complete revolution around the sun every 365 days, and we add a year to our sun's age every 365 days. 93 miles away from the earth, you're so close like the sun in our hearts. Do the maths. Assuming we have started counting from 7 million BC, you will see how many fathers this sun has fathered and the amount of energy that sun has provided. See, before a father can create a son, that father must first acknowledge that there is indeed a son whose father is so great. He created your father and my great-grandfather. He has fathered me and fathered my father. He is my source of power. Power equals energy. Energy equals light. The sun is my source of light. The sun is the way, the truth, and the light. You can only find your way to the Father with him or through him. The Elohim, they call him. The theme in many hymns. Without him, the world would have completely been dim. He fills my morning gladness to the brim. Blessed, the only potentate, the King of Kings, Lord of Lords. Yes, that is him. He created the heavens and the earth. His breath warms the earth, and all that dwelleth upon the earth shall worship him. Seraphim and cherubim, all creations worship him. Walid, Yakub, Wa Ishak, Wa Ibrahim, the first and last of the Greek alphabet, Alpha and Omega. He is super. I'm not talking about superbet, but his ways are mega. He is a photo that has been described with the most number of sentences. The reason for the biological principle, photosynthesis. From Genesis, count your blessing, divide your losses over your profits, multiply the benefits. What is your answer? I know your answer is God. The answer to the most complex mathematical equations. 5x plus 2y equals 5,000, where x is bread and y is fish. I don't care whether it is pala or 1,000. He solved them. He fed 5,000 people. He even healed the crippled. So what is your problem? Just bring it. He will solve them. Ono no did that crippled boy tapame dine no this mesia bro sign. Ono not na dine muma muhain no sat nature bon bain. Senya mine si dina wine. Mene one come hwehwe nature kwan.
There's nothing worth more that could ever come close. Nothing can compare. You're our living hope. Your presence, Lord. I've tasted unseen of the sweetest of loves, where my heart becomes free and my shame is undone. Your presence, Lord. Holy Spirit, you are welcome here. Come flood this place and fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God.
and fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for. To be overcome by your presence, Lord. Your presence, Lord. Holy Spirit, you are welcome here. Come flood this place and fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for. To be overcome by your presence, Lord. Holy Spirit, you are welcome here. Come flood this place and fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for. To be overcome by your presence, Lord. Your presence, Lord. Let us become more aware of your presence. Let us experience the glory of your goodness. Let us become more aware of your presence. Let us experience the glory of your goodness. Let us become more aware of your presence. Let us experience the glory of your goodness. Let us become more aware of your presence. Let us experience the glory of your goodness. Your presence, Lord. Holy Spirit, you are welcome here. Come flood this place and fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long.
Hello and welcome again. Next speaker for tonight, and that is my very own pastor, Reverend Tade Abesonwa. Trust me, you don't want to listen to this man. He's a great teacher of the word, the lead pastor of Custom House Baptist Church. He's an accredited Baptist minister, a great theologian, a John Maxwell certified coach, and the list goes on and on. Trust me, this man has been a blessing to me and to many. If you come to our church, you will know what I'm talking about. This is the man for the moment, and I want you to get your books and listen, open your hearts and your spirit as the Lord speaks through him to change your life today. See you.
Hello, my name is the Reverend Tade Agbesonwa, and I would like to welcome you to the Leadme conference. I've been asked to speak to you about growing in your leadership, and that's what we are going to do today. But before we go into what I want to share, so there is this man called Simon Sinek. He's an author, and he wrote this very popular book called Start With Why. And I do think that for every young leader, or for any leader, we need to be asking ourselves why we lead, because this is what really roots us. Why do you lead? For us as Christians, our phrase, I think, describes why we lead, and it is this: soli Deo Gloria. Whatever we do, we do for the glory of God. We lead for the glory of God, not for our own popularity, not for our own lifting up, not for financial gain. We lead solely for the glory of God, solely Deo Gloria. And so as we go forward in our leadership, as we do the things that God has called us to do, always remember this: solely Deo Gloria. It will hold us in good stead, you see, because when disappointments come, when you are misunderstood, when things are not working out well for you, remember, solely Deo Gloria. You are not alone, you are sent, and you do what you do for the glory of God and for the glory of God alone. So that's one reason why we lead. But also to say, before we go into the talk proper, also to say that your leadership matters, because leadership matters. It was John Maxwell who said that everything rises and falls on leadership, and that's true. So if, for instance, you look at a church that you admire, perhaps Hillsong, perhaps Trinity Baptist Church, Holy Trinity Brompton, Jesus House. Now, if you look to those organizations and say, yes, this organization is really good, I admire how they do things, I admire how they reach the lost, and so on and so forth. Look to the leadership, because you will find that those organizations are what they are. Those churches are what they are because of the leadership of the church. And so leadership matters. All this to say, your leadership matters. Your organization will be blessed if you lead properly. And I'll say that again: your organization, your ministry will be greatly blessed if you lead properly. However, what you will find is that leadership, as we understand it, is not static. Leadership needs to continually evolve. It was I think a man called Malcolm Goldsmith, and he wrote this book called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And somebody also then said, what brought you success today would not necessarily bring you success tomorrow. The reason I say all of this is because in leadership, we must understand that the environment in which we do leadership constantly changes, constantly evolves. And if that is true, and it is true, you would need to continually develop your leadership. You need to continually develop new capacities, new competencies, new mindsets. And so let me give you a few examples before we move on. The way we communicate, the way things are done, the way in which the message is put out there has changed. Nowadays, big brands spend quite a lot of money on social media because they know that's where the audience is. So we as Christians need to understand that things are changing around us. We live in an environment where people no longer believe in God, where there's a lot of atheism, where people are proud to say, I'm an atheist. We live in an environment that is much more secular. And if you're a young person, if you think about it, a lot of your friends probably do not hold the kind of traditional views that you hold. And so a lot of your friends probably have a different attitude to marriage. They have a different attitude to sexuality. They have a different attitude to things like abortion, and so on and so forth. And truth be told, we as Christian leaders live in an environment where the opposition to the gospel is unprecedented. All this to say, the methodology that grew the church yesterday will not grow the church today. The methodology that grew the church yesterday will not grow the church today. What that means for you and for me is that we need to continually evolve in our leadership. And so I want to share with you 5 areas, especially, and I will say this in the context of being a young leader. I would want to share with you 5 areas in which I think every young leader should be growing? Well, there are 5 areas in which I myself constantly challenge myself to grow. So it really doesn't matter whether you are young or old. These are 5 areas in which I think every leader needs to continue to grow. So after I share those 5 areas, I would probably want to share with you 4 growth principles. And so let's dive right in and talk about those 5 areas. The first is obvious if you're a Christian, and it is this: prayer. We need to be growing in prayer simply because we need God's direction in our ministry, in our leadership, so that we do not find ourselves running the wrong race. We need to continually hear from God. Let me tell you a story. It's the story of an Englishman who went to India, was a fit, young Essex lad, and he loved, he loved riding bicycles. He was very good at bicycle races. And so he goes to India and he comes across a bicycle race, and he enters the race, and he looks at all the people who have lined up to run the race, and they were looking very lean. They were not really very strong, and this guy, big strappy lad, he thinks he's going to win this race. And so everybody lines up, they get on their bicycles, and on your mark, set, go. And as this young man had go, he rode his bicycle very, very fast and got to the finish line and said, I have won, I have won. But of course, he was disqualified. And the reason was because although he saw the bicycles, it wasn't really a bicycle race. It was a game on how long you could balance on a bicycle without moving. So you see, he entered, I think, into the wrong competition. And it's the same with us when we, as young leaders, as Christians generally, when we do not pray, we begin to run the wrong race. But besides, prayer is important because in leadership, Christian leadership can be very difficult, and we are going to be needing God's strength when things grow difficult. We're going to be needing God's strength and wisdom when things just are not as straightforward as we hope they should be. We will need God's strength, God's direction when frustration sets in, as it would. Truth be told, without God, the best vision, the best strategies are easily frustrated by the enemy. And so prayer is important, and it's the first principle. The second principle, the second area in which we ought to grow, I have mentioned very briefly initially, and it is this: we must learn to communicate differently. We must grow in our area of communication. It is said that everybody speaks, but not all of us communicate. But I want to speak about a new reality in the way in which we communicate the gospel. You see, everything has now moved online. The gospel of Christ is spread through communication, and we need to be mastering the new ways of communication, the new spheres, the new environment in which people communicate, and that is primarily social media. But there is something peculiar about social media, about Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and it is this: that attention spans are very, very short. Attention spans can be very short, and it's an environment in which people can be hostile to the gospel. It's a noisy marketplace because everybody is there, and so we need to be adapting not our message but our methodology as we communicate in these new environments. And so if you're a communicator of the gospel, even if in praise and worship, you need to be saying to yourself, how do I adapt my message to this new reality? In order to do that, you need to be learning to do things differently. You need to speak different. You need to learn how to speak in a very concise ways and in ways that capture the attention of the people. But we do this again, soli Deo Gloria, for the glory of God alone. So, like I said earlier on, we need to be adapting our methodology, but never the message of Jesus Christ, that Jesus Christ is the only way in which we are saved. That is permanent, it is established eternally, but the methodology must change. So that's the second thing. We must learn to communicate differently. The third thing, very quickly, is we need to be developing cultural intelligence. Every church leader needs to develop cultural intelligence. We need to be informed. We need to understand what is going on in our culture, because you see, so many of us as Christians, we exist in an echo chamber. We kind of hear how we think. We live among people who understand how we think, who understand what we say. But we are not called in here. We're called to be out there. And in order to be effective out there, we need to be developing what I call cultural intelligence. So there is a friend of mine. His name is Reverend Osoba Otaigbe, and he writes this book on developing cultural competencies. It's a really good book. If you Google it, you will find the book. But most importantly, we need to stop existing in a Christian echo chamber. It was the late John Stott, I think, reader emeritus, I think he was, at All Souls in Langham Place, and he's famed for saying that we need to be preaching with the newspaper in one hand and the Bible in the other hand. We need to be understanding what culture is saying. The practical level, every young leader must learn to do a bit of apologetics. Every young leader needs to know the arguments for atheism. You need to know the thought process of secularists. And also you need to know what other religions are saying, because you see, we are called to a mission field and we need to understand these things. So for instance, if somebody says to you, I'm spiritual but not religious, how do you engage with such a person? And so of course the first is we need to pray more. We need to learn to communicate differently, and thirdly, we need to be developing cultural intelligence. Now, the fourth thing, this is a big one. This is this. We need to grow in the area of self-leadership. We need to grow in the area of self-leadership, because you see, you are your own greatest resource. You are a decision-making unit. You are a resource allocating unit, and therefore you must lead yourself well. Now, self-leadership is a big subject, but there are two areas I would want us to focus on today. And the first is this. In order to lead yourself well, you need to understand what your blind spots are. And secondly, in order to lead yourself well, you need to practice good time management. But I'm pretty sure you've heard all that before, but bear with me as I share my views on those things. And the first is this: know your blind spots, because many leaders have been sunk, or at least have been severely limited, because they have not understood that they have blind spots. I've come across so many people who think that their own opinion is the opinion that counts, and no other person has wisdom. It's a blind spot. I have come across people who have an attitude that needs adjusting, but they do not see it. And even when they are told, they take offense. They have blind spots. I would say to every young leader, learn to listen to other points of view, because it is an essential skill if you want to grow your leadership. In fact, I'll advise that you have trusted friends who can speak into your life, who can say, well, you may think that the way you speak is okay, but perhaps you need to check your tone of voice. But perhaps you need to stop being that angry, and so on and so forth. You need people who can speak into your life and say, Mr. Man, Mrs. Woman, what you're doing is probably not right. People are uncomfortable with the way you speak, the way you approach other people, the way you in fact, receive instruction from those who God has put over you. So many young leaders especially have this blind spot. In our eagerness to do things, we do not listen to the voice of other people. So please do take that to heart. The second is this: time management. I would advise every young leader to take a good course on productivity. Spend a significant proportion of your time on those things that matter, those things that have a direct impact on the mission that God has given you. There are several things that we could spend our time on, but please do spend your time on those things that are important with respect to your calling in Christ. The second thing with respect to time management, very quickly, is this: not every section of 24 hours is equally productive. I find that as people, we need to be maximizing our mornings. Sometimes, as I say that, you will say, oh, but I'm a night person. Please be a morning person. If you read books on especially great leaders, one common thing is that they are morning people. In fact, a lot of them would wake up at 5 a.m. to get things done because you are freshest in the morning. With respect to time, plan your day. Have a planner and use it. Many productive people, many high achieving leaders, they plan their day rigidly. It is said that if you don't plan your day, other people will plan it for you. Yeah, if you don't plan your day, other people will plan your day for you. If you don't fill your day, other people will fill your day for you. So that's the fourth thing, self-leadership. And like I said, that's a conference on its own. But I want to share with you a fifth thing. The fifth thing, and this is very, very important for young leaders, it is to build trust capital. To build trust capital. Was again Maxwell who said leadership is about influence, nothing more, nothing less. In leadership, and especially in church leadership, we need to be influencing people. You really can't command people because you are not really paying them to do anything. And even if you have people who are being paid, you need to be influencing them to bring the best out of them. So it's not so much about positional authority in church. It is about the ability to persuade people. And so you need to be building church, you need to be building trust capital. With respect to a young leader, so let me just say this. Before people trust you with their time and their money, because this is what it's all about, before they trust you with their time and their money, you must have what's called trust capital. And most young leaders, because they're only just starting, don't have that trust capital. And it is why you'll find old people not giving you a chance, because you haven't built up that trust capital. So there are two components that you would need to build up your trust capital. And this, again, I've always said this is very important. There are two components that you're going to need to build up your trust capital. The first is character, and the second is competence. So let's talk about character. Without defining it, I think it is probably more productive to speak about character without defining it. So character, as an example, would be keeping your word. Character would be turning up on time. Character would be things like politeness. Character would be things like likability. It's a whole bundle of things. Turn up on time. Let people know that you can be right. Let people know that you can be relied upon, and so on and so forth. Character. And the second, of course, is competence. Be good at your assignment. There are so many people who have stopped growing in their area of assignment. We are stagnant. We need to be discovering and putting into practice new ways of doing the things that God has assigned us to do. we need to be looking at how we can do things better. It's called being incremental in our leadership. So what I will say with respect to competence is this: be innovative, bring innovation to the table, provide solutions to challenges. So many people can point out what is wrong, but not so many people can provide solutions. It is okay to say this is wrong, but it's way better to say, well, this is wrong, but we could do these things better, and this is how we can do things better. Oh, and by the way, I volunteer to put all of these things into practice. Follow through on your commitments. Let me read you a quote from John Maxwell. And so this is what he says to every young leader: everyone will be watching to see if what you say and what you do line up. If you have demonstrated character and competence, your credibility will keep gaining more weight until who you are eventually has greater influence than what you say. As people's trust grows, so will your influence. As people's trust grows, so will your influence. As you continue to demonstrate character and competence, so will your influence. Without demonstrating character and competence, nobody is going to follow you as a leader, and you would not be able to influence anyone. So those are the 5 things I want to share with you. But I did say, if you remember earlier on, that I would also want to share with you 4 principles, because those 4 principles will help you put into practice the suggestions that I have made. Oh, and by the way, my list is not exclusive. You could come up with your own list, but there are 4 growth principles I would want to share with you as we bring, or at least as I bring my talk to an end. And the first is this: you need to set aside time to grow. You need to set time aside to grow. You need to be intentional about your growth, because growth in any area doesn't just happen. If you are a worship leader, getting better doesn't just happen. If you play any instrument, getting better doesn't happen. Getting better doesn't just happen. I think it was Malcolm Gladwell, and he wrote this book called Outliers. And in that book, he says, in order to get good at anything, in order to get to world class, you need to be practicing for 10,000 hours. Not sure where he got that figure from, but it does sound good. So you need to set aside time for growth. Secondly, determine your areas of growth. Which areas have the greatest impact on your calling? I have said that earlier on. So if you are called to be a pastor, a minister of the word, it probably might be better to spend time reading books on preaching, perhaps going to church when the church is relatively empty, and preach out loud, and practice your intonations, and practice your what's called turning points in preaching, and how you string your sermon together so that people follow what you are saying. Practice what's called cadence, and so on and so forth in your preaching. So determine your areas of growth. If it is preaching, spend time on that. If it is teaching in the children's ministry, be excellent in that. If it is leading praise and worship, be excellent in that. Determine your areas of growth, because you cannot do everything. In fact, God has not called you to do everything. So that's the second principle. The 4th principle is find resources in your area of growth. It's something I've touched on earlier, but make sure that you are a reader of books. I read a lot of books. If you look behind me, that's actually a third of my library, and that's true. And of course, just in case you're thinking, have you read most of the books? The answer is, of course, yes, because I do read a lot. So read books that will help you in your ministry. Listen to podcasts that will help you in your ministry. Go to conferences. Those would be a few suggestions. And the 4th thing is this: apply what you learn daily, because learning without application is a waste of time. Apply what you learn daily. because if you are learning and you are not applying it, it is simply a waste of time. I want to leave you with a verse from Paul's letter to the Romans, because he actually talks about leadership. And so let me leave you with Paul's word. And so this is what he says in Romans 12:6-8. I'll just read that to you. He says, we have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. If it is giving, then give generously. So this is where you come in. If it is to lead, do it diligently. If it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully. But I'll go over that phrase again, where he says, if it is to lead, do it diligently. And you cannot lead diligently if you are not growing in your leadership. So thank you for leading, and thank you for being in church leadership. Thank you for listening. So God bless, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
Thank you so much, Reverend Tade Agbesonuwa. Thank you so much. That was a great word. I have been blessed. I've learned something new today. I don't know about you. I just want to hear from you in the comments. Let us hear what you've actually learned tomorrow. But you know what? Tomorrow is a different session. I'm going to Pastor Toye Olenka, my personal friend, great man of God. He's going to be speaking on prophetic and worship. Trust me. I want all the worship leaders, all the prophetic people, please, everybody, literally. Anybody wants to learn about these two ministries, trust me, you don't want to miss tomorrow. And there'll be a question and answer, please. We're going to be having some short conversation with us and questions. And whatever you have that's on your heart, that's bugging your mind, I want you to, you can send it to me right now, or during the session tomorrow, you can send the questions and we will be ready to answer some of the questions. Trust me, tell a friend to not miss tomorrow. Another great session. Thank you so much for today. It has been a blessing. I know it has been a blessing to you, because it has personally blessed me today. And thank you very much for tuning in and sharing and just telling people about this conference. We thank God. We give all the glory to God. And I'll see you tomorrow for another session. God bless you.
Hi church. So today I've been asked to sing the song His Eyes on the Sparrow, and I just pray as I sing this song that it will just bless and minister to you all today. Why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come? And why should my heart feel lonely and long for heaven and home? When Jesus is my portion, a constant friend is He. His eyes is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. His eyes is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. And I sing because I'm happy, and I sing because I'm free. His and I know He watches me. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches, and I know He watches, and I know He watches me, and I sing because I'm happy, and I sing because I'm free. His eyes on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. His eyes on the sparrow, and I know He